Welcome to a Thursday edition of the Overlook Hour. I know Clark's been out on vacation, and we said we weren't going to do anything on Thursday, like any interviews, but we reserved the right to hold one if somebody really special popped up. And I think it's pretty obvious. My favorite guest is back, Jorge Torres-Torres, and he brought one of his stars of his new movie, Dain Marx. Dain, you still
Correct.
there? Okay, good.
I'm here. Hey, hello.
You got any relation to Carl there?
I don't know.
You don't know
Yes.
Karl Marx?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's any direct. I think it might be a different family. I'm told, but
No. I think it's more of a
research is still
no.
still being.
No, he's
made.
kind of like the Six Marx brother.
Okay.
He's not really. Yeah, it's not.
All right,
He's
Carl.
Drano. He's Drano.
I promise I won't stick it up like that again, Dain, and involve you. I'm sorry there. And again, our good friend, our cinematographer for everything we do over in the East Bay, who hasn't answered any of my texts for 2 weeks now. But then at lunch, when I found out we were going to get Jorge on the line, answered immediately, followed by a long apology. And I told him, I said, you know what? I just found out Jorge's going to be in town showing his film on Friday. So I know it's like, I gave you like an hour heads up. I'm like, I know you can't, you don't want to shoot over here and make it. So meet me on Friday. He's like, no, I'll be there. Jasadi Perkins, thank you for showing up and
What's up?
finally answering my text.
We spoke last time, and I don't think you probably saw me because I don't think we had the video, or you guys didn't have your video on. So
Yeah, Jorge, last time we had you on here, you were with your buddy Jason, and after I think we talked for a couple of hours, we stopped recording, but we trapped you for another hour. And I mostly let Jasadi talk to you about like technical questions he had, because the first time we had you on, he was as taken aback as I was by your camera work on Fat Tuesday, and he roasted me for not asking any technical questions. So again, I invited you here because I told you I would if he came back.
yeah,
But don't cramp my style. I'll let you in when you can.
I got you.
And I know you haven't seen the film yet. I'm one of the few privileged that have. And again, a long intro, but apologies for the sound quality. Clark is on vacation, which everybody knows, but Randy also couldn't make it today because that little dick is watching Red Rocket at the Plaza in Atlanta. So good fuck you, Randy.
That's a double entendre.
God, yeah, you know Red Rocket, right?
No, I'm just saying Red Rocket and Little Dick.
Okay, I'm gonna cut your mic off. God damn it! So how have you been,
Little
Jorge?
Red Rocket.
Yeah, Little Red Rocket.
Yeah, no, just been doing great. Just working a lot. But the work involves a lot of doc stuff. So, and then just finishing up Bride, which Dain and I, kind of started conceiving like on the last days of December of last year. Right before February, Mardi Gras came around. So it feels like this year kind of flew by, and we're working on other stuff, and now I'm just trying to get Dain to continue being my divine, Yeah, that's it. I've been good. How have you been? Have y'all been?
Dude, we've just been busy. Yeah, there's so much going on. We've been doing guest hosting since Clark's been gone, and that's been a trip. I mean, again, Clark is on vacation, but I'm also on vacation from Clark. So I've been having a good time in here. Because you've been on the show, he likes to cut it early. The past 2 episodes we recorded went over 3 hours. So he's not happy about that, but whatever. Now, Jorge, now that I have you, I have to ask you. I always get notifications on my phone that you're doing live streams on Instagram. Yet every time I jump on there, you're never doing it.
He does it for like 6 seconds, and then he doesn't keep it on his profile.
What the hell is that? What kind of tease? What are you doing?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's almost like if you're there to hang out at that moment, that would be great. But I really don't want to let this thing linger. But if you saw it, It'd be awesome, but I'm not. Nobody's angry. Everybody's having a good time.
I think I caught one of them, and you were filming like a hallway, and you were walking down it, and I just remember thinking like
He went to Six Flags.
was that it?
No, that's not it. No. That was a Hard Rock Cafe in Orlando. I was there because I was there with my boss, and we were doing horror nights in September. And then they keep playing all this just stuff from, like there's Iron Maiden videos playing in the lobby on all these screens, and followed by U2, and then whatever. And then so this music's going, and I'm just smoking weed and walking down this hallway because there's so much echo. And I used to cover that song with Ceramic Duck, this noise metal band I was in, and we used to cover Kickstart My Heart, the song I was singing down the hall. yeah, that's the start of that.
What the hell? What did you play in the band?
Well, mostly bass in that specific band, but then I'd switch to guitar and I played drums on some songs. But it was a monster. It was pretty. We had the first song on the first album. The album was called 300 Cobras, and the first song was called "Shut That Fucking Baby Up."
Shut that fucking baby up.
Fuck yeah.
Shut that fucking baby up.
Shut that fucking baby up.
Dude, all right.
That was
cool.
a great
Shit.
band, Ceramic Duck. You guys missed out.
Oh, shut
Like,
up.
they're
Yeah.
like Cookie Monster on acid.
Oh.
That was an amazing band.
Well, and it was also, it came around because Dain and I, when I was living in Athens, Georgia, I just moved to Athens in 2001, and we started a noise because in Athens, Georgia, there's so many musicians. It's just such a crossover. Within months, I'd already met like John Cameron Mitchell, who was just there for Hedwig, and was friends with a lot of the guys that we were hanging out that Dain already knew that they
Julian Coster and those guys.
Yeah. Dain was in this band called a pretty popular band called Zum Zum, and we started this band called Zombie Soundtrack, and then that over the years other bands and experiments ended up being Ceramic Duck, which was also like horror, just crazy. Just the cover was just like a black screen with an upside down dripping colored candy drippy upside down cross with googly eyes smiling with like jelly white bubbles like spilling out of the mouth.
So you always have that visual aesthetic, even when you're doing music.
Well, before all that, it was just very beautiful and melodic sort of albums, like very well put together with like very specific lyrics and like harmonies, and very different. And then there were sort of other bands that were just complete, just there was more of an ambience. Dain and I met Dain when I was 16 and he was 19, and we started our first band was called October Groundfly.
Oh.
And then Dain and I showed me the first. I remember after practicing, it's like Sunday before going back to school on Monday, and he's like, we were rehearsing at his house in Crowley, where Bride of Shadow Zombie takes place, and he's like, wait, you haven't seen Hellraiser 1 or Hellbound? What? And he sits me through both of them, and I loved it. Yet he knows that it brought this depression on me that day. I felt super fucking whacked out and sad, but I loved it. But it was just so like, what? Love it. And but it was like it hit me. I've known that guy for a long time.
Wow, that is pretty interesting, because Hellraiser is the most melancholy of all the slasher pantheon.
Yeah.
So if a Jorge Torres-Torres was going to be influenced by a slasher, that checks out. So how did you feel about the second one, which is kind of like a big studio movie, and it kind of gets off the rails from the tone of the first?
Well, funny enough, it's one of the first the first little sprinkles of like inspiration of like because the second one is also an homage to like James Wells, like Bride of Frankenstein and all this stuff. And I jokingly, when Shadow Zombie came out, first one in 2013 in festivals, in 2015 was like online. I just remember just kind of like I don't know, Dane, I'm trying to explain three things tied up to one thing that it's just Bride of Shadow Zombie. I jokingly I would say, oh yeah, let's make a sequel, and it's Bride of Shadow Zombie, and it's going to be about Kim's wife that he actually has. Didn't you know he had a wife? He's still married. He never like divorced it. Just like so, let's just do a doc and just make a horror movie about that. And I just kept on joking about that. And then a lot of movies like, you know, Hellbound came to mind as like doing this homage without even doing it. You know, it's just embedded in the influence, and there's nothing in Bride of Shadow Zombie where we're creating a female or like pairing anything. It's just it's sort of destiny and people, and it's just a playful, just very old-fashioned title for a movie that is just very clearly not oh god, just classical. I don't know how to explain it, or like
it's a sequel. It's a title of a sequel.
Yeah, it's just the title of a sequel.
Yeah, you know, I've been, while I was at work and when I learned I was going to be talking to you, I was trying to mull over the title you chose, Bride of Shadow Zombie, and I kept thinking about it. And you know, I'm glad we were talking about Hellraiser, because Hellraiser 2 is much larger and the perspective shifts. And in Shadow Zombie and your other films, well, actually, it's not true for Fat Tuesday, now I'm thinking about it. But you know, the empathy horror, the term I'm so proudly coined, and I saw that
yes.
Another Hole in the Head used it. I'm like, dude, hell yeah.
Well, no. I because I passed it on. I was like, this is the name now. This is what it came from. You know.
Hell yeah.
From our podcast. Yeah.
Well, I can die now, so thank you for that. No, but here's the thing. So with empathy horror, it's the kind of how I would articulate your films is that it's the only kind of horror that you have to let in. Like you have to open up and really feel with these characters, and then you wonder why you did it, and you're like, well, because it is a mostly positive journey that the harshness of reality creeps into. And with Bride, I noticed there was a shift even in your perspective here, where a lot of the empathy horror films are kind of, you capture them in a home. And it's like, here's the private life. And it's kind of like what David Lynch deals with, where it's like, behind the picket fences, all the horror happens. But now, in Bride of Shadow Zombie, we're dealing with Crowley, which it seemed like a town I had known of via name, but I don't know. Crowley might just be such a like normally, I don't know, like popular name, like, I don't know, Mr. Crowley. But you almost have like a David Simon perspective here, where, I mean, fuck, you have a drone in this film. Like, and I was taken aback almost, where I believe early on in the film we have a small montage of like billboards that are dilapidated, they're falling apart, and it's just like this perspective is much broader. And I kept thinking of like The Wire, where I'm like, okay, Crowley is a character in this, and I was trying to think of how to set up a sequel to Shadow Zombie. Which Shadow Zombie's easy. It's kind of got that like skate punk vibe, where we're doing kind of like Harmony Korine. Like, it's very Jorge Torres-Torres, where we're dealing with the family. It's kind of one that most movies wouldn't want representing America, but you learn there's a lot of heart there. But for the sequel, I'm like, how do you set up the movie for people? Because you almost want to call it a direct sequel, but it's not, because there's a huge time lapse there. But we do kind of we pick back up.
Yes. No, I mean, in the time lapse, in the narrative, plus the time lapse because Shadow Zombie was the second movie I was working on that was my film. I was doing Toad Road. By the time I had finished editing Toad Road for Banker, I had done like 4 other films. So by this point, I don't know if Fat Tuesday is somewhere on 11 or 12 or something. I don't, in terms of like just number of projects I had to like edit, which each one is like each one it feels like I just like graduated class on something. Like it never feels like I was like, oh yeah, I edited and I'm using this and I'm gonna edit this one. No, it's like each one had a up and down, emotional, technical, professional kind of like trajectory journey. I guess like it when you show Shadow Zombie, which is like the raw first, I'm talking about the first one, like first raw me approach and knowing, stepping into what we were talking about for the first time, empathy horror, because Dain was supposed to be in the first Shadow Zombie. Shadow Zombie was supposed to be a comedy about Kim's wife, about his wife getting out of jail and him having a huge party, and Dain comes to perform. Dain didn't make it to the movie, and I just had to shoot with Kim. And then when I came to face with all the harsh realities about, you know, the time lapse in our friendship and, you know, how we've grown old and, you know, his life with drugs and all this stuff, then that's when I learned about the empathy horror stuff. And I think I applied that, and I still made other sort of very different films that just had other angles and other dynamics. And then I feel it's so great to visit that, and it feels to me so clearly normal, because I've been editing for like this company, Bang Bang, and they're great. And I do these crazy, kind of flashy, crazy videos of tattooing, and now I'm doing doc stuff, and it's a little more just polished, crazier stuff. So all that stuff bled into my work. Even the drone, as you mentioned, like they had 2 drones on a shelf. One of them was destroyed. I think they flew it inside the store. And then the second one was just collecting dust. And I was like, we're going to learn how to do this. And then, and I just grabbed it and we just did these shots, and, you know, and then even the editing and like the scene with the rain, there's a scene where they reunite, the friends reunite, they're in front of the rain. That scene was all a single take. But it doesn't look like it, just because it's been so long from the first one to this one that I can play around and I know exactly where I'm at. The first one is definitely just has a different rhythm and a different like approach to the fly on the wall. This is more of a fever dream, and it does have a more ending thing, because, you know, it's been like 10 years since we made this other film, and we've seen other friends die. So it's just, it would definitely show in the style. And I was so excited. It was just completely it wasn't even following the 3 acts. It's just like one dream after the other. The audio is just a mess, and in the most beautiful heavenly sense. But yeah, I guess that's.
Now here's the thing. I'm in that mode where you have like a favorite band in high school, and you kind of don't want to share it with people, but you love it. And when other people like it, you're kind of like, I don't know, like, get away from my band. Except it's reversed. Because now here's the thing. Bride of Shadow Zombie, it's going to be premiering out here at Another Hole in the Head. And I keep trying to put myself in the position of somebody who's never seen Shadow Zombie and what it's going to be like coming in here. And
you don't need to. That's the thing. I got to stop you. I think Dan and I, even the way that we were running with it, we were like, anybody can watch this. And if they watch that's why it has flashback. Well, the flashbacks are outtakes and extended things that are in the movie, but it's an alternate take of things and like stuff that I didn't show. So it has a grounding of its own. And yeah, sorry to interrupt, but yeah, I just wanted to point that out.
No, you're fine. I think it's interesting because I feel like at some point you were worried about this too. So Bride is such an iconic like sequel name. And
yeah.
It's interesting because now when we first watched Shadow Zombie, and I mean we, because the team I have with me today are the people I watched it with. And Jasadi stayed late after we talked to you the first time, and we watched Shadow Zombie, and we were blown away by the digital ghost. And I mean that in a literal sense with the original Shadow Zombie. Now, I know you haven't seen this one, Jasadi, but there isn't so much... There is a digital ghost. It just takes a different form. And while I was driving here from work, I was thinking about it. And Jorge shot this year. Oh, wow. Like in February, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 9 days or something.
Fucking crazy.
It was 9 days in February, and it was the first freeze in Louisiana in like 10 years or something.
That's why, yeah, there was snow and roses in bloom were like freezing with water dripping on it and stuff.
Yeah, and as a fan of your filmography, Louisiana's in a lot of it, except this time it looked different, and it's almost perfect. It's almost kind of like a cold representation of normally what you see as a lively city. And I know in the film, oh man, so here's what I've been worried about. Now,
I mean, there's been a time lapse in the world of the pandemic. I mean, it was we had to. I was like, Dain, we have to make. We were originally going to make a movie with Dain's family because they're very important people in Crowley in terms of they've been around and during Mardi Gras they're part of these celebrations, and we wanted to make a doc about that, and that all got canceled. So we knew that Louisiana was going to be completely different than Fat Tuesday or even the first Shadow Zombie. It was just going to be like, like war stricken, just what the hell, and it was crazy. It was like, there's a scene of a guy driving and he's pulling another car, and the other car doesn't have a front left tire, and it's just a rim.
Yeah.
And there's a cop behind them. And we were like, oh, they're going to get stopped. And then the cop just like stops at the Dunkin' Donuts and lets the car go. And I'm like, what the fuck is... And he's just destroying the roads. Like, I'm like, what is going on? So yeah, it's just anyway.
Now, pardon my tangent, but we have a good special effects friend out in Louisiana, Bill Spataro. And I talk to him all the time. And I always harass him because I want him to just take his phone out and capture some of the footage. Now, he was the one that reported to us during COVID, and he was saying rats have taken over the town because they're used to the tourism and they like to eat all the garbage. But now that nobody's here, they're everywhere. And he was the one who I was communicating with when they had the hurricane warning and they were like locked down. Now, he stayed behind when they were telling everybody evacuate. But he was kind of telling me the culture that came out of it and like the kind of lawless nature. Did you get any footage during that time? I just had to ask.
In New York, yes.
Okay.
Yes. No, from the moment from a week before, I just bought the newest GoPro for work, and I was just getting the city and this like legless guy like directing traffic by screaming and just obscenities to the cars, and going from that to like nothing, because then I would ride through Manhattan and stuff, and then all of a sudden it would just be empty streets, and then a guy in a plastic bubble with Christmas lights and a speaker inside is just floating around, and you're like, or like shit, or just walking around, man, just hearing all the people that are dying, all this shit, and you're like, okay, it's a beautiful day, I'm gonna step out and ride my bike, and then you stop because there's a woman just walking a white horse like on the fucking street, and you're like,
shit.
Holy fuck. Yeah, just stuff like that, and then just getting like flashed by a woman while you're trying to get a burrito. I don't know.
Okay, good. Well,
It was not, yeah.
Jorge, we need people like you out there with the camera capturing this stuff. And have you ever watched How To with John Williams?
Yeah, I know a couple of people that work on it.
Okay, because when
On the show.
I see that show, because we just watched episode 1 and 2 of season 2, and you're the one that comes to mind, where I'm like, you got to be present and to work a frame and to capture like the emotion of the moment and know how to present it. I always think of you there, and to bring it back to Dain showing up in Bride of Shadow Zombie. When he first appears, and you just talked about this earlier, how you shot it in one take. Man, the camera work compared to the first film is, I mean this in a good way. It's almost manic. Like your camera likes to move. And, originally it's what I loved about Fat Tuesday was I love a busy camera. And I think, as a horror fan, I think it comes from like Italian cinema and kind of just trying to keep an audience engaged. But yours is so methodical, and you called your film like a fever dream earlier, and I think that's the way I'm going to pitch it to people from now on. It's like, imagine you have a character who's kind of living in like a 90s aesthetic in the first film, and we're doing a character piece on a real person, and then we pick it back up in one of the worst times of the lockdown in a city that's known for having the only culture left in America, and it's gone.
During the point, Dain, and Dain can attest that, during the point where it's like it's the month.
Yeah.
It's the month that defines a lot. It's sadly, but at the same time, greatly, like just the culture. Like everybody knows about like that sort of carnival. Just like
Well, it happens the whole month because it's always a different time because it all depends on a certain Jewish holiday, Passover or something. It's like so many days because Mardi Gras, the Fat Tuesday, you're supposed to be debaucherous. It's like the purge. And then the next day is Ash Wednesday, and you get the ashes on your forehead, and you give something up for 40 days during Lent. It's all like seasonal.
Yeah, and again, when I was talking about my because we do a film fest and everything, and I'm always thinking about what's the right way to present a film. And I think this one's going to require people, they show up and they pay attention. Because this is a film that, I would call empathy horror. But a lot of the horror is derived from the absence of people. Which is, it took me a minute in the film, but halfway through I was like, God, this is like rough. Like, I mean, again, out here in the Bay Area, everybody's still like is so scared. But there's a moment where Dain and Kim are in a car and they're talking about, hey, is there going to be a parade? They're like, I don't think so, man. And it's like, not only is there like nobody out there, it's like dead. It's a ghost town. Actually, so where is Crowley? I'm not familiar.
Crowley is between Lake Charles and Lafayette on I-10.
Okay.
So west of Lafayette, which is west of Baton Rouge, the Chaffalaya Basin area.
Yeah, my brother's grandfather's from Lafayette.
Okay, I know Lafayette and Baton Rouge.
I lived in Lafayette for 9 years.
Yeah, that's where we had our band together. Was in Lafayette.
Okay, well, you bring up the band. Now, is the band really Table Snot? Is that real? Is that band in the film?
Dain, yes, please elaborate, please.
Table Snot was a real band. Jorge and I were in a band called October Groundfly, he mentioned earlier. And Kim was, he was like our roadie kind of. And we told him he was our manager. He didn't really do any managing, but he would ride in the van, and he was kind of like our hype guy. God. And we even had a couple of songs that he would shake maracas on. And he we gave him one line in a song. We kind of wrote the song just so he could have a vocal part. And, we were all living in Lafayette during this era, and, everyone had kind of like their own solo projects going. And our friend Jason Tron had a 4-track, and then Jorge got his own 4-track. And I think we started passing it around or something, or maybe eventually I got a 4-track too. And at some point, Kim came to me and he was like, "Oh, I want to record some songs." And so, he and I like just kind of messed around and did some recordings. And in the first Shadow Zombie, Kim plays the tape for Brandy, and that's our recordings from our 4-track from the actual Table Stomp album that we did. So it was more like a 4-track, Kim's 4-track solo project, I would say.
Yeah,
and we played 1 or 2 shows.
Did you?
Yeah, Main Street. Yeah, Tim
in the
Tim
kitchen
and Sean. Yeah, and because we were just messing around like after practice and stuff, and
the instruments were set up in the kitchen where they lived. Because he lived with Kim. Kim kind of stayed with you, right? A lot of the time.
Yeah, he lived in the house with like 9 other people.
Rad.
No, and he had a song called Dead Indiana Smurfs, and I remember I was filming him, and I can't find the footage. We never found it. Excuse me. And he's just this big riff, and he just takes his time, and he just goes.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't ever much of a performer.
And it's just like, it is wild.
That one show that we did play, I think he gave the mic to somebody in the audience for over half of it.
Damn, man.
That was my inspiration, because I knew that immediately. I was driving on, it was the 29th of December. I was driving from Athens, Georgia, back to New York, and halfway through it, I don't know what state I was in. I remember just calling Dain and being like, "We're making the sequel to Shadow Zombie, and the band is getting back together, and blah blah blah." And I'm driving like, and like he's like, "Okay, cool," and then yada yada yada. Like a month and a half later, we're like making the movie.
Man, I love it because it sounds like when I was in high school too. Although I was in 3 different bands, never played a show. So Table Snot has one up on me. Now let me try and reset this movie again too, because I want to make sure that people are clear and can follow us here. So in the original Shadow Zombie, there's gonna be a light spoiler here. It's about a kind of an outcast character falling in love and then losing that love. Now in Bride of Shadow Zombie, he's kind of haunted by it. And in the first film, there's like a digital ghost, like literally, like I mentioned earlier, which is kind of a representation of like depression. And it's always creeping in exactly when you don't want it to. In this film, we don't see the depression ghost, but we have actual footage. I'm guessing what is real footage, a lot of it at least, of our characters, our real life characters in the past. And it's kind of like a representation of memory and better times. And then we have Dain show up. Now, Dain showing up is interesting because our lead, our Shadow Zombie, is feeling more alone than ever, which seems like an impossible feat. And then we have a ghost of a former friend materialized. Now, I have personally some friends who, when I came out of high school, I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do, and I felt kind of crippled by it. I didn't do college, and I kind of just went right into like a roundtable job. And I only got the job because my dad called his buddy and said, "Hire my son." Otherwise, I would have been like floating on couches and doing nothing. And I've had friends who kind of like dipped in and out of my life and kind of out of nowhere, and I literally been in a band with people and had them disappear and then show up years later. And it's really interesting how when you see somebody you knew very intimately and they come back into your life, how you try to like reshape your life to fit them back in. And in this film we have Kim. the idea of a band pops back up. And it's like, hey, let's get the band back together. And it's almost like, let's find that common ground that we used to have. And I'm curious, like, how much of that is real? Because I know one of the hallmarks of a Jorge Torres-Torres film is we're really blurring the line here. And clearly, through all the home videos, your cast they're all friends, and they've known each other this amount of time. So I'm curious if, Dain, did you actually vanish and make a reappearance? Like, how much of this story is true?
Yeah, there's a lot of reality to it. I guess really it was October Groundfly was the band, the actual band. And then I left Lafayette kind of and traveled the country and very transiently. I did a lot of hitchhiking and I lived in the mountains and national parks and up and down the West Coast. I spent some time in San Francisco and all the way up to Portland. And every town that I lived in, I kind of like would form a new band and stuff. And so like, I feel like we, in 2014, October Groundfly did like a 20-year reunion show. And we did some filming for that, but it was hard for Jorge to film and be in the band. So, all the footage that we got from that, like, ended up being kind of like a personal thing. Kim was there. He's in a lot of that footage as well. But I think that
even
was
Sean
like,
from Brooklyn.
Yeah, we wanted
Sean.
Like I wanted to make a reunion show type of film, with our other band, and it didn't really work out. So this was kind of like, well, we'll just kind of put that same element, but with Kim's band instead, and kind of like make it into, what the future is.
Now, Dain, now when you left, did you tell anyone, or did you just kind of vanish overnight?
I guess it was more like a gradual leaving, like over a couple of weeks. I'm not really sure.
I found out you were gone. I mean, we weren't as close at that point because I think our band had broken up, and in Dain's words, I had basically cheated on October Groundfly with Rare Avis, this other band. This was before we met again in Athens, Georgia in 2001, whenever I moved there, and he had already been there. But yeah, I remember just kind of hearing it. There was no like, hey, everybody, look, Dain's leaving. Whoopie. No, there was none of that. It was
I feel like everyone.
Oh, he left. Oh, he's already gone.
Yeah,
blah, blah, blah.
Everyone had kind of already like drifted apart by then, and it was like,
sure.
Well, what am I still doing here? I need to go see the world, and that's kind of like how that happened.
Now, I bring it up because, like I mentioned, being aimless out of high school and being surrounded by people who somehow they knew what they wanted to do, I formed a pretty tight group of people who had nothing to do, and we would hang out and just drink. And when one of them just kind of vanishes, it feels like such a betrayal. So not to put you on the spot, Dain, but I thought it was interesting in the film when you show back up, because I've had that happen, and I remember one of my first thoughts being like, oh, like fuck you, like kind of like you pull the plug and you're gone, and then you figure it out and you get used to it. But now that you're back, it almost feels like it demands some kind of like regularity or hey, now make time for me. And it's like, dude, it's almost like a lame comparison to like Castaway or something, where it's like, oh, you're back off the island and life kept going, but now you're back. And I do have a kind of a constrictive relationship with my friends, and I like to keep them close. And I don't know. I don't know if that's like an internal pressure or anything. So did you keep contact with people while you were traveling America?
No, not really. I mean, we didn't really have the technology that we have now.
So, I was not even the Nokia phones, the little tiny. No.
Well, you had payphones.
Yeah,
Like
I mean, at times I
eh.
wasn't even around like a landline. You know, I was like up in the backcountry in the Sierra Nevadas, and early on.
So,
And
Dane,
then, you know,
the
right
people
in the
I knew that did this, they didn't do anything nearly as cool as it sounds like you did. And I'm curious, so like when you're on the road and you're alone with your own thoughts like that, like I listen to podcasts all day to kind of stay out of that headspace. And I know a lot of people now say like, you know, everything that's wrong with modern day people is that we don't get the time to mull stuff over and think about it. And I kind of make a career out of running from that. And it just terrifies me to imagine being on the road like alone. Like, you're incredibly brave, or it seems like you were running from something?
I was running to something, I guess.
Oh, I like that.
And maybe running from something a little bit. I mean, I feel like there was probably a lot of drama going on, and it was just too overwhelming. And also the Lafayette and Crowley is really stagnant to me, and it would get really hot and, you know, unbearably so sometimes, you know, it hardly ever get cold. And
Actually, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
No, just say that Dane and I made a movie in 2015, a documentary of a music festival in Athens, Georgia called Athfest, and it's many of the artists, some from bands like Believer Tremor Control and like Elf Power and whatnot, this and that, and you get a sense of Dane's commitment. There's a scene where he's just naming, I don't know, he names like 30 bands that he's been in, and it's just like Narcs, SmackDown. I mean, Dane, just give us a taste. It's like he's gonna do a circus trick. I'm sorry to put you on the spot. But watch the movie's on YouTube, by the way. So.
Oh, what's the name of the movie?
A Peculiar Noise.
Yeah. A Peculiar Noise.
All right, I'm writing it down.
So were you guys always big into like the noise genre, like growing up?
Yeah, Sonic Youth was like huge. Our band from Nirvana on. Nirvana was like, we just saw footage of Nirvana and Sonic Youth, and then it was like Sonic Youth, and then everything that comes under that, and even bands from like in Texas, you know, from the label Trans Syndicate, which just had these crazy underground, like Ed Hall and beautiful band. We did a lot of crazy noise, and I think A Peculiar Noise shows that, and his relationship with people that just vibe off of that, and everybody's in everybody's bands. I'm following one guy that's on like 5 bands, and it's something. Yeah, and even recording a lot of those records and things that we did when we were younger. During making films now, it's easier to have a clear idea of like, oh, I wanted to spin, I wanted to stop. Oh, that's too much. Oh, that's not nearly enough, you know. So, yeah, music. Yeah, him and I. Yeah, Zombie soundtrack, we had a puppet and 8 other people playing, and
yeah.
I mean, it was just
our
like
lead singer was a puppet. Yeah.
Dang.
Zombie Arthur. Yeah.
Because like
Arthur.
I could tell in your work, like I've just been getting into noise like the past like 2 years. Have you ever heard of the band Purient or Dominic Frenno?
No,
I haven't.
He also goes by Vatican Shadow, but he goes by like different monikers, but his story was interesting. He was on a podcast talking about how he got into like industrial music and how hearing the word industrial music, he thought it was supposed to sound one way and it didn't sound like that. So he was like, I'm going to make this other thing. And then that's how he like kind of got into the noise scene. But like, it's pretty interesting, like how you're like getting it, like you're in all these different noise bands, and then your approach to how you make movies, because I went to my first noise show like 2 years ago, and I was
waiting for this story to pop up.
Yeah, and it was just the crazy, because growing up I listened to hip hop, rap, like there was no way I was gonna listen to this. But like as of I guess like the past like I would say like 10 years, I just grown like my music like choice have been like grown like crazy, and this noise show was just interesting because like the different ways you can create sound and how it connects to a certain narrative. Like we had this one guy who came up who was like obsessed with the Unabomber, and then he would like have all these noises that it would just fuck you up mentally. And his whole aesthetic was that, and he had like a projector playing like all these evidence files from all like the Unabomber shit that they found. And
I remember when you came back from LA, you were telling me about this because you were shocked that everybody was pumping up this one particular artist. And then you're like, dude, they got up there and all they did was scream
for literally 30 minutes. This woman, and they were telling me about it. They're like, yeah, you gotta wait for her. And she was, and the crazy thing was they were selling merch, and she was selling vinyls and cassettes. So I'm like, oh, okay, like I'm gonna check her out. And they're like, you need to see her live first. Yo, 30 minutes, this woman screamed, but in like in an interesting way where it was just like a call, like and like honestly,
please never do that again.
Yeah, she did it way better. But no, like it was interesting because at a certain point, because I'm like, because like you gotta think like I'm not just gonna ride around listening to this, but it's a certain thing where it's like it almost created this other sound. And you hear it enough to where it's so absurd that like it does something else to you mentally. And I see noise as like I see it as like the martyr of like music, of like we're doing things now musically that 10 years later it's gonna be placed into popular music. Now, I hear it all the time.
Here's the thing. I think about this regularly, like why, like particularly because I listen to a lot of like extreme metal. But, you know, I mostly do it as a backdrop. And I think I swear, I must have ADD where I'm constantly thinking about stuff. And what it allows me to do is like if I listen to it loud, it kind of gives me a clarity. Like I almost tune it out. And then I'm kind of like left alone to have like calm, like solid, deep thoughts. And I think, you know, noise is a great way to do it. I actually lived with a dude who was in a noise band. And, he always talked about how San Jose had a big scene. Is that true? Like I'm here with two people who played in noise bands. Have y'all ever heard that?
No, I don't. I mean, the thing is, this is a time where these pockets of time where I'm like, oh, have you heard of Ed Hall or Bedhead? It's like they seem very specific to the region because even so, by 99 or 97 or whatever, I was like watching Sean Marshall like videos that were like these MP4 fucking weird, fucked up like shit, like you know, for Cat Power. It seems, it's just interesting how. I don't know. It feels very sucked into some weird pocket that is slowly dying off. I feel like just because it's not.
It evolves.
Yeah,
it evolves into something else.
It's like that artist I was telling you about. He's like, I think he was like from like a small town in Wisconsin, and it just reminds me of like how you guys talk about like Crowley and Lafayette. It's like, he's getting into a scene that like a few of his friends is getting to in that little pocket, and they literally performed a live noise show in this local park, like outside, where like families and kids are hanging at. So
the scene when he's outside, when they're in the parking lot, they're reading out just a basic Lafayette news whatever paper thing, and it's just reading everything that's canceled, which is everything. Because I was like, oh, wait, this is the whole scene right here. I'm just gonna like empty parking lot. It's cold. They're dressed like they're ready to party. This is gonna be awesome. And we did it in like one take. And what's interesting about that scene, it's at the end of that scene, I think it's all improvised. It starts off, I set them off with the list, which is just enough of just enough to just go in and build up the frustration. And but then it just builds up to stuff they're improvising, and it hits on what you guys were just talking about, because he says something to the effect of, we could just set up right here and start playing, and we can start playing in this parking lot, and people will just stop and start listening, and then Dain responds with oh yeah, that's right, we don't need people, and that's the end of this. And I'm like, okay, that's perfect. They brought it to a very sincere sentiment, because in Lafayette, you just had to do things, or else it would just not get done, even though they seem fucking futile, and they're just like these tiny bursts just lost in a fucking storm. It just sucks that we did crazy things, because Lafayette really just pushed you to fucking. It was just stagnant, like Dain was saying, and by the way, Dain is from Crowley, by the way. I don't know if that was mentioned. He was born there. That's where we, I don't know. So there's a lot of sincerity to, I think, the hardships to being young in Lafayette, and then Crowley, which is even a smaller town, 20-something minutes outside of Lafayette, which we would get, $1 Whoppers.
$1 Whoppers? Oh my goodness! I'm in the wrong place.
Back in the day.
Back in the day, that was like November 5th, 1955. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Now, Dain, thank you for being so forthcoming about that. I felt like I was kind of grilling you or getting a little too personal there earlier. But you just from the minute you showed up on camera, I felt like I knew you. Like you represent a type of person in my life that just it clicked. And Jorge just manages to capture people in this authentic like tone, and I could just imagine like going through all those beats again, because when you have a close friend come back into town, the first thing they're going to do is ask about all the other close friends that you had. Right. And it's interesting with Shadow Zombie, because it's like in the first film we don't really see any. Like he's definitely at parties and he's hanging out with people and he seems like a cool dude. He's like, but nobody really that close to him. And then you show up and we literally do this. We're going into people's houses. We're meeting people. He's playing in a band. And it seems so out of character. And I just had to know, like, is that real? Also, at the end of the film, I love how, how every movie has the, and I mean the end, because I'm trying not to spoil it, because I know Jasadi hasn't seen or anything. No, but in the credits.
We trust you.
Yeah, in the credits, you know how they always have the, like, any similarity to reality is purely coincidental. Your film straight up says, this nonfiction fictional film. Like, where is the line drawn? Like, like, it's actually so hard. It's so hard to tell, Jorge. Like, just as somebody who's a fan.
Setting. I think the line is drawn in the setting. The narrative is loosely based on a version of reality, but I think because we're not wearing, costumes, really, we're kind of being ourselves and being in our own element. I don't know. Does that make sense?
It's interesting that you call it costumes, because I actually feel like you are, but it's not that you're in costumes because of like regular social anxiety or anything. It's almost like everybody in this film is in a costume because of COVID. And when you show up, you're in a mask and you're kind of like playing a prank, like almost like a Halloween or something. And when we're meeting people, it's like I've on this show, I've expressed how much I hate masks in film, because I feel like it's going to date it, and I know we're going to get through this thing and we're going to look back on these movies and be like, oh, I wonder when this was made. Except for this film, because I feel like it's an important part of the narrative, because we're dealing with a dude who already is struggling socially, and then now this COVID thing is like it's a filter that's put on everybody, and we're all like, it's interesting watching conversations flow where people will have a nose down under their nose, or a mask down under their nose, or no mask, or the mask will come back on. And it's this weird dialogue, and it almost informs you of how they're feeling. And I'm curious in those conversations, like particularly the first one where I believe we're creeping in somebody's garage and they pop out. Right? Who was that character?
That was Shane.
He's in the first one. He's the guy in the
first
bed.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember that interaction felt like, it's like, hey, we all know each other, except there was like a pure palpable like tension in the air. I don't know. Or if it's kind of like, I don't know how cozy we should be.
Yeah, Shane actually was part of our group back in the day as well. So that's like a genuine friendship. I hadn't seen him since the last time I had visited the area. So I mean, he wasn't really expecting me to walk into his garage.
It was a surprise. We actually surprised him. Something he wouldn't do during COVID. I mean, not COVID, but it was still
both. You wouldn't do it during a movie or COVID.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is why, I feel like I might be a little biased, but COVID, it plays such an interesting role in this film. And then, I don't know, you combine it with the drone shots and the dilapidated. I'm excited because we have a screener. So I don't think with, one, I should mention, another hole in the head, they're doing an online component this year. Now, me and Oksana were talking earlier. I don't think you'll be able to watch Shadow Zombie. Well, this episode will be up on Thursday. So tomorrow, if you're listening the day of, you better go to the New People Cinema and hang out with us. I know the New People's still doing, I think they have like a limit on how many people can go in there. They're like the only goddamn theater in the Bay Area who's still doing like a COVID restriction. I know, whatever.
Nah, we busting through the door.
It's a beautiful theater. It's literally underground, and it's Dolby Audio, which we've been talking a lot about bands, and I'd be amiss if I didn't mention the audioscape in this film is something unlike every other film I've seen of yours. Like, you really went to town with it. What do you have like a special mix here or anything?
Well, we when
Were you gonna make something up? That I feel like you're preparing a lie right now. Yeah.
When we were, I guess, Dane's friend Chase, a friend of ours, who helped us in Night of the Rumpus, which is a film I made with Dane that Dane also stars as the one before Bride, and he was going on this just creative streak, and he was sending all these files of music, just based on what we had described that we were going to be doing and what the other films had and all this stuff. And he sent some really great stuff, and we used parts of it. And but then there was a moment where I don't know what it is, and it's also far from where I was even with the first Shadow Zombie like 9 years ago or whatever. And it's something with not popular music, but with music that has lyrics and a specific voice. And because we were dealing with table snot and like this specific type of music, like I couldn't just put, and we tried stuff, stuff that would be just like, woo, just like pretty, and you're like, no, like, but it would hit like the melancholic tone, but no, it wasn't. Just any and then harder music, like just like crazy old school stuff that we had from back in the day from this band Ice Pick Revival, which is featured there, a band that just metal, awesome band from back in the day. There's nothing in between, and then I just started looking through just like occult 60s, just 60s, just obscure, just dilapidated stuff online, and I found just a bunch of obscure shit, and some of it is not, which might, by the end of the day, it just depends on, just like the first Shadow Zombie, a lot of the music shifts and gets, before the release, it just gets sort of kind of a little bit more manipulated, and some stuff gets taken out. Fat Tuesday had that. All the films have had that. Sisters, and yeah, all of them.
Sunwalkers did my theme song in the car.
Yeah.
The song that keeps repeating.
Also, the theme in the beginning and appears in the middle and sort of the end is done by Paige Campbell from Hope for a Golden Summer, and she composes with her sister, and they do a lot of beautiful music. And she just did something a little bit more dissonant, which we were talking about noise earlier, like to evolve the idea of like noise and chaos to like dissonance and feel like that's the note we're supposed to hear, even though it's completely out of tune and it's trying to harmonize with something that's completely out of tune, but they're completely in sync in something. So there's just this really weird split when you're perceiving that type of music. It's noise, but it's more dissonant and just melancholic in a drunken way, like melancholic alcoholic.
Jorge,
have you
slowly adapt? Yeah.
To connect to your point about that, have you seen the movie You Were Never Really Here with Joaquin Phoenix?
It's familiar.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember in the beginning, like talking about how like noise plays like an important part. I saw it in theaters.
That's a good soundtrack, actually.
Yeah, like so I went into that movie blind, right? And right when I knew this movie was gonna be something different was in the beginning. It's not gonna spoil anything, but like you just see a shot of like Joaquin Phoenix like breaking the cell phone and walking out of like this hotel, and then you start hearing guitars. So then naturally, like we've all heard guitars and like in every part of music, and especially in like soundtracks. But then the guitar start to sound like it's being like down tuned or something like that. It's slowly
detuned. Yeah.
It's like detuned and it's like slowly getting manipulated. Like, whoa, wait, this is something different. And it's like it's almost like it's already signaling to you like this ain't gonna be any like normal film that you've seen. So I really like how just like your music background has just really influenced the way we just kind of like take in the story, and just it's you're messing with people's minds with the music that's preparing them for like the fucked up shit that you want to watch, because that's how I felt with Shadow Zombie too. Like
it's wonderful too, where it's like you create that place where things are just stacked, but they're not really in place, and that's a film. A film is just a bunch of things roaming around stacked, and they somehow start falling into place and tightening up until they just becomes one thing, and it just there's a progression, and there's those moments where there's all this dissonance, and then you put that right piece that is all in tune, that it's all in unison, that it's a choir, and it just you feel it, and you're not being really just forced to. That's how I think this movie shifts emotionally. It's through these weird audio gasps of Kim, and me. During the whole film, I decided, because his presence he disappears into a scene with a lot of people, I had to focus on his rhythm and walk at his pace. Therefore, everybody would walk with the camera, and we would always know that he's the focus because we are going at his pace and we're turning with him. And I'm not saying this is some Citizen Kane. Oh, look, it's a panning. No, it's not that. It's very just consistency of like committing to this docu narrative and this character, and I think the music is just molasses on top of like lava, and it's just like I don't know. In music, like we talked about earlier, it's just a huge thing for us, I think.
Dude, I love Jorge. I love hearing you try to articulate that. Just like music and like, because it is hard. It is really like ethereal. But before I do want to come back to music, but
wait. I'm sorry. No, I just have to say this because I keep forgetting, and I have to say this about Dain. Before all this happened, Dain and I's friendship got totally fully rekindled when we worked on 2 Modest Mouse videos and 2 Lamb of God videos back to back within like 2.5 months for Epic. And he is in every video, and in the Lamb of God videos, he plays a hobo priest that I mean, the Modest Mouse videos are exquisite, and Lamb of God, yes, there were, you know, challenges because the budgets were so different, and but he was there also as a producer, helping me find. We didn't have a crew when we landed in Virginia to shoot the video, and by that afternoon, by going to the river, we met people that did makeup, and we're all in the film, and we're all in the fucking thing, and that's how we cast the whole fucking thing. By the time Epic came down, they were like, okay, so I haven't heard from you guys. What, there's no planning here? And you know, and I'm like, we just shot it. It's already shot. And like, what? We just need to shoot the band. I was like, oh, okay, cool, looks great. And like, you know, and so they just give me a bunch of shit really quick. And the first 2 Modest Mouse videos, Dain had a huge. We had just made the documentary for Athens, so I was like, oh, let's go back there. And we made the first video of Lampshades on Fire from their album. They came out in 2015, and it was like the big comeback, and there were just these epic fucking videos. They were just so much. I mean, you watch them and you're like, how can these people have not been having the best like fucking fun? Like, there's no hiding it.
Didn't Isaac Brock ask for you to do it because he saw the
Shadow Zombie? Oh shit! Right, fuck. No, he actually saw the trailer that his bass player showed him. Russell, a good friend, who just by chance, because they were talking about inspirations, and he saw the trailer, and then 3 a.m, Isaac Brock calls me, and I remember just looking at the number. I was like, oh, whatever. And and then I wake up at 7 and I listen to the message like, wait, what the fuck? And I'm like, what? And I call him back. And he's like, yeah, I saw your trailer, and I just want you to do the first video inspired by this, I don't know, make it look like the trailer.
He played the trailer, and he played his song along with it, and he said it matched up perfectly. And he was like, can we just use this trailer? Like, he wanted to use the actual trailer for Shadow Zombie for his video.
That was crazy. No, but instead they just gave us 31 times the budget that Shadow Zombie originally cost to make as a feature for one video. They gave us like $65K. Damn. Shadow Zombie was only like $2,000. Like, Shadow Zombie, we just had all the equipment and the talent, and just have to know where the narrative is and where to point the camera, and doesn't matter if you know it doesn't matter if you know how to type really fast for a script. And
I mean, we were also the angles. Get Natasha Leone to be in that.
Oh yeah, Natasha Leone. I met Natasha. She's in the first video. I used to work at this really shitty movie theater at the end on West Houston in New York City, and really shitty. But the one thing that was great about it is that I met Natasha, and she would go there for just all these repertory stuff. And I don't know, she gave me tickets to her play when she was doing this play, Blood from a Stone, in Manhattan with Ethan Hawke, and then we went out for drinks, and then we just kind of stayed in touch. And then I just remember texting her and be like, hey, Epic wants me to do this, and you want to do this? And I mean, it was like, I didn't even have to, she was like, Modest Mouse, yes. And then she flew in for one day, and we had a blast. And yeah, she's awesome. She's super, we were just like, Epic was getting this video, and I was just like asking this cool person I knew, and she just didn't even want to get paid. I mean, we paid her, but she just didn't care. she just, you know, she was, yeah, she's awesome. And then we met at the second video, which was like more of a Game of Thrones satire that Isaac brought. That's how it gets started, but then it turned to a whole dark thing, different thing, and Dain's in it holding like explain your character, Dain, really quick. You had a staff of dildos. What is it?
Yeah, I think Isaac wanted like all these lords, stump lords, and we had the art director on that video was Amy Everson from Felt.
She stars in Felt.
Yeah. And so she designed all these crowns for everybody and matching scepters, and she built them all. And mine was a crown of toothbrushes, and then I had a scepter of 3 dildos. It was a tri-dildo scepter, and I believe that's my profile pic on Skype right here. You can see that.
And we shot that over like a hill in Portland,
it was right outside of Portland. Yeah, it was
in this mountainside where all the trees are completely cut. It's just completely a dead, and everybody's. I mean, it's CG fucking. Yeah, it's got so much stuff in there. And then immediately after that, we did 2 Lamb of God videos in 2 weeks, which you can tell the budget difference. Lamb of God, but you know, Lamb of God, if you're listening, I will make the best video now.
Why were those 2 not good?
No.
No,
they're fucking like 20 million views. I mean, I guess that's normal for them, but whatever. But it's just like, if you'd given me we were doing that in 2 weeks, and it's like 20K.
Yeah, they wanted us to do 3 videos, 1 in Portland, 2 in Richmond, and they gave us a third of the budget that they gave us for the first Modest Mouse video, and
the second
travel. We had to travel with it.
Yeah,
as part of our budget, and like we had to fly. We flew Banker around and got, you know, Banker's kind of expensive. Like, you know, he has a lot of needs if he's going to be on a project. So, you know.
Yeah. No, he actually dropped out of the Lamb of God. Like, he was like, he got another job and he just left.
Oh.
so he gave me this other person, and
he was good.
No. They did the first take, and I was like, holy no. And I was like, I had to grab the camera, and I shot basically the most of the video.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. But then that led to like writing. I wrote like for Travis. They asked me to do stuff for Travis Scott, and I was like writing stuff like Sicko Mode, and then it was like between all these directors, and they were like, oh, he's gonna love you, and I was like talking to like wolf trainers and like horse trainers, and then he's on peyote and like on an plane, so he can't be on the call, and then they're like, okay, well then do highest in the room, and then RIP, you know, screw. I mean, all this stuff came from all that stuff, but they never materialized because, I mean, we had some insane shit. It was amazing. It was like fucking like Travis Scott in a dilapidated mansion. He's like with 4 women, and they're all like deep faked with his face, and then he like kisses his daughters goodnight, and they're all like deep faked with his face, and there's like, you know, flocks of drones by the moon, and like he's just more elongated version, but he's red like a devil based on this beautiful film that we had seen. And so it was just a lot of, maybe it was just too much, but we were totally like hitting like a very crazy zone where if that would have happened, that would have kept on what we had started with those guys, because they asked me to do a Kelly Clarkson video. We immediately after, because Lamb of God came about because Sony was playing the video, because Epic is in the Sony owns Epic. They're in the same building, you know, obviously, you know, whatever. And on the huge screens, they were playing the Modest Mouse stuff because the video looks crazy. they were just like, they took us to dinner the first day. They were like, you guys are and Rosanna Goodman, the most amazing music video producer, she was just like, we're taking you guys out to dinner. This is gonna be awesome, because they had just witnessed like a half pipe in the woods and people skating with skateboards on fire. So
I wonder how your sicko mode version would have been, because I saw the video that came out, and it was, to me, I'm like, it was, I liked the song when it came out, but then it was just like the video was like whatever. But a Jorge Torres-Torres fucking
have you seen
video?
any of the music videos he's talked about so far?
No, I'm about to go watch all of them. after I watched
Felt, I felt that movie, and I felt like deeply like impacted. I know, so I went online and I did like lame research, and I found I couldn't remember how I got to the Modest Mouse videos, but yeah, Amy had to be it. And I remember watching, and I was like, oh, man, I'm not a Modest Mouse fan. But that Lampshades video, I was like, oh, no, but I can dude, it's so good. I added it to a playlist.
We got to watch this.
When we're done here, I'll definitely, I recommend anybody, go check out those music videos. They're all great. And, you know, we do a film podcast, and we talk about film all the time. One of my harshest critiques is how people film either bands or music videos, because they kind of fall into like an echo chamber. Like when music videos had millions of dollars behind them, you kind of got the same format all the time. And in film, man, capturing a band, I hate it when they're like really, there are two modes that you get a lot. And you get one like static camera, and you really kind of become a vampire. Like you're almost like a digital vampire of the energy on stage, because you're not really capturing it. Or you have like super heavily edited, like every fill of the drums, there's a cut to the drum set. And like, you know, and every time the bassist sticks his tongue out, you're like right up there with them. And I remember watching Raw. And Raw, there's a beautiful long shot of the protagonist walking through a crowd at a show. And I remember that was like one of the first times I ever was like, oh, this is how you film music.
Yeah.
But, you know, the reason I brought up the music in Bride of Shadow Zombie is I got the feeling I got when what the hell was that Nirvana documentary where they played a ton of music and it was really loud. Do you remember? You remember watching that, Oksana? No. There was one.
That the year punk broke?
Maybe I'd have to look it up.
That was Sonic Youth and Dinosaur Jr. and Nirvana.
Yeah, I can't.
Was it a different one?
No, I think this one was just focused on like Nirvana. It might have even been that documentary about him and
Courtney Love.
And Courtney.
Okay.
I don't know, but the music in that movie, like, you know how when you're watching a film and the levels are just fucking all over the place?
Oh, Kurt and Courtney. Yeah, because they didn't own it. They couldn't use any of the music, maybe. Maybe that's what you're talking about, because that doc just had to show a bunch of other stuff that just wasn't licensed, basically. I'm pretty sure that maybe it had to do with maybe if this is the movie we're talking about, because I remember seeing that in the theater.
It might be. And, you know, God damn it, Randy, if you were here, he would know, because I remember I talked to him about it. And the theater experience was almost punishing, because you're in there and it's like you hit a wall of sound. But it's kind of appropriate. And I'm trying to predict what it's going to be like with Bride. Now, actually, Jorge, are you the type of director that when you show up, do you want to get into the booth? And are you, because we've dealt with this before, where we have directors and they're like, hey, when is my movie playing? And who will be operating the projector? I'd like to go in there and look at the levels. And honestly, I'm of the ilk. I think that's fucking cool. Like when a director is, you know, they want to conduct their movie to the T kind of thing. I'm like, hey, power to you. But, you know, we're going to be in a Dolby theater on Friday, so I'm kind of curious.
Well, I think I might have to do it for this one, because... Oh,
I knew you would. You're talking about taking the camera out of somebody's hand over at this music video.
I feel his situation. I've been in a situation like that, so I get it.
That was because once I saw that first take, the math just almost blew my fucking head off my neck. Like, I was like, what? We're not gonna be here for 2 months. There's no fucking way. We got to do this now. So I would do that, but I do it sometimes. But for this one, just because it's not, the audio is not going to be how it's going to be released whenever it's actually out there.
Yeah.
I might just want to be like, I have a reference point where I want to make sure that doesn't peak or doesn't do any damage to a human or a machine.
Cool. I appreciate that. So do you have like
or anybody that's happen to have cyborg, whatever.
Yeah, I remember when we saw Fat Tuesday at the Atlanta. There was some sound issues, like especially with all the crowd noise from. There's a lot of peaking, and I don't think you did any setup. I think you just let them flow with that.
Yeah, I think we went to that festival, Dain and I, and I think Dain went to a couple of movies, but I think all we did was walk around the neighborhood in Atlanta and watch movies. And I watch houses and say, that's a cute one.
Doing the house hunters.
Now Dain.
Smoking weed. Yeah. We're just smoking a big joint.
Dude, Dain, so we've talked about you being in all these bands. Now in Bright as Shadow Zombie, are you playing it down? Because I don't want to reveal any of the story. Okay, good. Jorge's shaking his head no.
Oh God, don't.
What do you mean playing it down?
No, like, I don't know, because there's a specific aesthetic that's coming through there. And I'm trying to see, like, is this the show you normally put on, or are you, like, playing a character?
You know what? Jorge didn't really, like, give us anything to practice. He didn't really let us, like, write any songs or, like, anything. We just had to, like, we'd set up and he'd be like, all right, go for it. And, I'm not the greatest musician in the world, per se, but,
that was part of my decision making.
I was gonna say no. I've talked to Jorge enough. He knew what he was doing, and you like Dain.
It was gonna be magic. It was magic. I wish I could include the whole fucking time I was there in that room, and they were trying to figure out something, because you could see it. You could see 1995, 2020, 1995, 2021, and I just felt like it was just like. It was like it was there, but anyway. That's just
no, Jorge knew what he was doing, and what was the venue they were playing in?
I forget the name of the actual venue. I'm sure it's in the credits somewhere.
Bolt.
Dude,
Bolt.
What a cool! I love the way it looked.
They're awesome. They were so sweet and let us do that, and God bless their hearts, man.
Now, if I could set, like, there's a particular moment I'm talking about, and I don't want to go too deep into it, but man, it really felt like in Oakland when you're going to see a show and you have an address and you're like, is this a real venue? And and there's a staff there and everybody's doing their thing, but you're kind of like, that looks like an exterior house door on stage. Dude, I love that setup. And you get Kim and Dain up there, and that like anxious excitement, that energy is so palpable that I was like, dude, they like either y'all are like the best actors or Jorge set y'all up.
Well, no. We set up the show and Dain starts playing, and I'm filming Dain out. I mean, it's one camera the whole time, but I trick it, and then I'm shooting these guys outside, and it's like boom, they're playing this beat. And it goes on forever until Dain stops. But it's like, this goes on for like 2.5 minutes, and then I go back there, and he's just blowing his nose, and I'm like, keep going, and I was like, Dain, all right, keep going. This is it, because my brain was crying with laughter. I was like, this is it. And then when I get him, I get him to not to do anything, just to basically like wait till I go around so he can come out. And again, the audio editing, I make it all like feel kind of, it's all one moment, but it does feel like it. And he's so tired at this point. And, he probably forgot that I said action or that we were recording. And so he, after all that, he makes it out. As he's making, if you watch the film, he's walking onto this stage through a door. It seems like a garage door. I don't know. It seems so permanent too. It doesn't seem like just a prop. It's just so like, what? And then, but as he walks, he's so tired, he just crashes into it. He's like, oh boy. And then he gets up there, and I'm like, okay, cool. Anything at this point, we're writing a wave. This is good. And then Kim, he just goes to Dain, like, is that what you're playing? and Dain is playing the song, and he's like, what? And Kim is just like, is that what you're gonna be playing? And it's just like, oh man, it's just, that whole thing was just them. It was us just being there, man, and it was great. And it just kind of being like, okay, this is it now. I knew there was going to be an intro, but this, I caught him blowing his nose. All that stuff's real. He didn't fake to blow his nose. That's all real. Please give him an award. Yeah.
Now, to me, I didn't know what was orchestrated and what wasn't. I mean, this is kind of one of your hallmarks, like this blurring reality and fiction. And the only thing I could think of is, all these weird shows that I've been to that I have like fond memories of. And, you're in the room, and it's usually a sparsely populated room. And it's really a vibe you're like tapping into. And every now and then somebody would record one of these nights, and you go back and you listen to it, and you're like, that's not it. And it's really not about like what was captured. It's about like being a part of it. And I just kept like watching that on screen. I was like, dude, it was probably so fucking cool to be one of the 4 people in there. Now, you did have like a small crowd. Were these all people that you knew? Like, are they all friends?
Yeah, we asked them to show up, and they were mainly characters that were kind of in something, like Shane was there, and Tiffany, who's
she's a person who's responsible for the box full of 20-hour plus hours of just them in their teenage years. She's the girl standing by the stage, and then the rest of the 2-3 other people were just related to our drummer, through the drummer Sean, who was in the sound booth, the guy with the orange hair.
Yeah.
They were just there because they were his ride, I think.
Yeah, so he had a friend. Yeah, he had a couple friends with him, and we asked Tiffany to be there and Shane to be there because they were, connected in the film somehow. And maybe the person who unlocked the club for us.
Okay, so y'all actually didn't break in. It was hard to tell.
And Shane, the guy from the first movie, he's the other guy on the other side on the stage. I don't fucking know. Whatever. He's just the other guy. It's the only 2 people that actually focus on. The other people are just in the background. But those are 2 very integral people that are in the footage from 1995. Shane is almost unrecognizable. It just looks very different. I think everybody kind of does a little bit, except Brandy, which she's just the sweetest, this woman that's been our friend for the longest time. She loved our movie October Groundfly, our band of October Groundfly back in the day, and she was always there, and she made it into a lot of that footage because she was friends with Tiffany Gotchison, the girl at the show. And
Tiffany had a camera, and she would come and tape the shows for us, and tape her friends hanging out smoking weed in the closet. And a lot of people would go to her mom's house and to like take advantage of her pool and
had green water.
Yeah, that water was actually that color. That's
green. I mean, unless my eyes, but that's.
Now, Jorge, at any point did you consider like actually advertising a show and trying to get like walk-ins to come in?
No, because I mean, even Mardi Gras was like canceled. So the idea of even getting a show, and then the thing is, like, we live. Imagine this place that we grew up as teenagers when we were young and we have strength, and there's still like liquid in our bodies making us move around. Unlike now that we're all dried up, and we still couldn't make Lafayette fun. We struggled. We were terrorists of social terrorists, I think. We did some things that, you know, can be too specific, but they're lovely. They're inspirational. Like stealing the famous, you know, bro, you know, bar.
Don't incriminate yourself here. Yeah, and you know, I figured you hadn't, because you know the end product is, you know, it is a fictional story, and our lead is kind of surrounded by ghosts at this point, and your mixed media skill of editing, like with all that home video mixed with like current COVID people, man, you really paint Crowley as this weird purgatory for a character that, you know, an audience just, you can't help but love Shadow Zombie. I don't know, man.
Also, Crowley, we also shot in Rain, right? Dain, Rain is another town. All the frogs, that's Rain. It's right. Just this, there were those frogs that you see in the film. These structures. There were like dozens. I just showed the ones that. I mean, I felt I just couldn't just slow down too much, but it was insanity. There's just the artwork of a town that's known for the Frog Festival. Dain, is it Rice Festival?
Crowley had the Rice Festival and Rain had a Frog Festival. Every town had its own harvest festival. You know, there's the Cattle Festival. The Crawfish Festival was in Brobridge.
Ooh, crawfish. I love crawfish.
Crawfish sounds good, but I think the frog one.
Sugarcane. Yeah, every small town would have some kind of reason to put up carnival rides and to have parades and stuff, and it would happen, you know, throughout the year. So, not just during Mardi Gras.
So, Dain, are you in New York too, or are you back in Crowley? Where are you living now?
I'm in Athens, Georgia at the moment.
Are you thinking of hooking up with Jorge for more films in the future, or?
Yeah, we're talking about doing this and that. I think there are a few ideas rolling around on the table. I'm not sure which one we're going to go at.
I don't think the world has seen a very emotionally grounded, you know, Bigfoot movie, you know, Bigfoot size. Oh, shit. And the loss of children.
You got to do the Rougarou if you're going to be in Louisiana.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, our friend Tristan Cohen, who is a writer and works, he's worked with Dain on some podcasts. What are they named?
Adventures in New America. He also was the narrator in FTW.
Oh yeah. And in FTW, there's a scene where he's narrating, talking about Dain, as Dain is coming out of the sewers, and he's making up all this crazy shit about Dain. And it's footage that I shot of Dain walking through the sewers, getting beat up by our friends, just jokingly. But that's just a collaboration of all our friends, just like distorting like those little memories and just making them into like FTW basically.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love that. Well, I mean, I've kept you guys for 90 minutes. I don't know. Do you want to hang out? I could let you go.
Kept you for 90 minutes.
No, not at all. Dain, don't listen to him. We've been trying. We put our hooks in Jorge. We're obsessed with his films, and now that I know you're an FTW, I think we might have to drag you out here too. Oh wait, so Dain, are you going to come out for Friday?
No, I'm not going to be able to make it.
Boo.
Dain actually, in Night of the Rumpus, he plays this character, and the character makes these action figures. And Dain, for years now, also incorporated this element into A Peculiar Noise, the other doc. That's how things would bleed into it. But Dain makes some pretty hardcore shit. He Yeah, he's made Shadow Zombie, fucking the series of action figures for Shadow Zombie.
Oh.
With Shadow Zombie, the Dad, Brandy. He also did a couple of figures for Modest Mouse stuff. He did for he did one of me as a director. Just as he had the packaging beautiful, and he does all these. Actually, what am I doing describing? Because I don't even know how to describe. He does this. What is it? Please.
It's it's basically like customized figures, existing figures to like make characters of whatever I want.
How can I get a Shadow Zombie action?
Yeah, do you have like an Instagram or do you sell them?
Shit.
From time to time, yes, I do. My Instagram is Dain Marx Toys. You can also search Buzzard Guts, and usually it's the first thing that comes up. I do a lot of we call it bootleg action figures. It's basically like, doing kit bashes of action figures and then doing some kind of parody twist on it, and original card art, and making it look package worthy, like a vintage Kenner style Star Wars action figure.
No, I totally understand. I've actually done card art for a couple people before, and I'm not a great Photoshop artist, but
right.
I'm better than nothing. So I am completely aware and totally interested. Did you find him?
Yeah, I found him. I followed you. And I don't know if you see, but I'm following you now, and
cool.
I will be DMing you about this Shadow Zombie. I need that in my life.
We're also jokingly earlier. A film that my dad had shown me when I was probably 6, very young, where it was just frightening. It was a weekday, and he just showed all these films in the biggest room in the house, and the projector, and he had this Mexican horror film called Los Muñecos Infernales, the Infernal Dolls, and it was just low budget, and this guy would kill these people and take their heart out and put it in these dolls that were the size of little people, and it was just disturbing because they wore this fucked up mask. It was black and white from the 50s, fucked up mask of the people they kill, and very disturbing. And they have a needle, and I was like, "Dang, you're my Geppetto. Like, we need to do a remake, shot for shot of this. This is, dude. I can translate. I know Spanish. I can do this." And anyway, that's just, we were just talking about that earlier. It was funny. That
sounds hella interesting.
What was it? Was called the Infernal Dolls.
Yeah, and the idea of doing something with. Yeah,
I don't know if you can find it under that. Maybe.
Okay, well,
it would have to be Los Muñecos Infernales.
Did you get that, Oksana? So here's the thing. While we're talking, she does a video capture and just tries to keep up with all the things we drop for a YouTube video that will probably be out in months. But I'm curious. I saw you attempt to start typing that, and then you abandoned.
No, I just typed the English translation because.
Did you find it?
I'm not sure. There is one. Is the director Roberto Guinar?
What?
From 1992. Unless there's another.
Well, he said the 50s, right?
No, yeah, it's 50. Oh my God, here it is. Let me see if.
Because your dad showed it to you on reel to reel.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What?
Okay, it's called Muñecos Infernales. It's I'll just send you. It's.
Do you still have that on the?
Yeah, she found it. It's it was a low budget, and it just fucked with me. You don't want to show that to a 6-year-old on a projector on the biggest room of the house. I just he would always take we wouldn't park the cars inside the house, inside the garage, because he'd turn the garage into a theater with all the pictures of all the movies and actors that he had gotten signed, and then during the day he would was part of the CSI department in Puerto Rico. He was a detective. He used to be
wow, shit.
He was. That's what I thought. I didn't know all this until a few years ago when my sister passed, my half sister Natalie, and I spoke to my half brother, older brother Jorge Enrique, and he told me Yeah. Didn't you know he was part of like the first CSI department established like in
Damn.
the 70s or 80s, and then I'd see him on TV talking about like they'd interview him when like some like host of a TV show got found like burnt alive in the trunk of a car. I remember hearing that those news in the car going to school in this white Herbie Volkswagen, and then later in the afternoon you'd see the news and he would be interviewed, and it was funny. He just, just like that.
Well, I don't have a cool job like that, but for years we definitely my parents were not happy about not parking in the garage because we also turned it into a theater, and that's where we would do all of our early Overlook stuff. We just harassed people to come over and watch movies. So yeah, we're definitely kindred souls here. Well,
rehearsal space or cinema, one of the two.
Yep. Yeah,
kids gotta pick.
I'm glad I quit guitar because I was not very good at it. Well, Jorge, I'm looking forward to hanging out with you on Friday. I heard you have an early flight Saturday though.
Yeah, but we're doing we're hanging out so we'll squeeze in some time, like all of us, and actually meet. If all of you are get to.
We getting drunk?
We're gonna harass you.
We're gonna take you to a bar called Dimples Underground.
Yeah, it's the type of bar when you walk in, everybody's smoking until they look at you, and then they put it out and pretend like it wasn't happening. And then you have to convince them, like, no, we're cool. I don't care. Do whatever you want.
Wait, was that creepy one with mirrors?
Yeah.
It's like right next. Oh, that place looks. It actually looks very like. I want to film in there.
Yeah, no, it looks like a place you would want to film in. Yeah, for sure.
Lost in time, for sure.
All right, I'm gonna let them all go. So Clark will be back next week. Thanks for hanging out, Jorge, Dain. I love you. Love you guys.
Thank you.